Hey guys, welcome to Signal Before Silence. Today we are going to put some tinfoil hats on. So the content that I'm going to present, the scientific part of it, is not tinfoily. It's just real, it's happening, and it sounds like a absolute dystopian nightmare. The part that's tinfoil hat is because the idea stemmed from a single post about Charlie Kirk. Milo Yiannopoulos, something. Milo, he posted that he knows for a fact that Charlie Kirk hasn't been buried yet. That, just got me thinking all sorts of things, because in my earlier episodes I was jokingly saying, like, if this is some kind of I think I was making fun of the numerology folks, and I was saying, well, if you're right, then they should resurrect him. So now, fast forward, I see that post and it just got me into some crazy thoughts. But it is a hypothesis that I bet you haven't seen or heard. So stay tuned, because again, I don't think it was a hoax. I do think he's dead. But we are going to entertain a really, really crazy thought. Before we get started, a few things. One, there's always timestamps. So if you're one of those impatient ones, jump around, just find the title that suits you or whatever you're here for. On the other hand, I just want to say, take a moment to subscribe, or if you're new, of course, you can wait till the end and subscribe. Up to you. Also, exciting news. I launched a merch store. I'm wearing one of them today, Signal Before Silence. I involved you guys in the creative process, and many of you had great ideas, and Signal Before Silence was one of them. Then there was another one coming from Janky Janes, who said that it would be really fun to have something like this, where Uncle Sam, the traditional Uncle Sam image, is kind of saying stop noticing. I really like this one, and I think a lot of you liked it too. And then I added another one because Adam was sad that I didn't include one to say shenanigans, since I use that word so much. So I added this other design, which is shenanigans detected. I hope you guys like it. I will link the shop to both the description, as well as I will pin it in the top of the comments. So check that out. If you like something, support that way. This is one way to support me. And I thank everyone who has been donating or using Super Thanks or using the PayPal. I really appreciate you, and thank you for your support. All right, so let's jump into it. As I said, it all stemmed from a single comment. I do have to say, anytime I present a thought to you guys, I am never married to my ideas. If a data point comes in and that thought can change moment over moment based on what I'm reading, what I'm learning, what I'm discovering, especially this one, just know that this is so hypothetical, so insanely hypothetical. So time will tell if there's anything to it, but I kind of feel like it's worth putting it out there. Again, the entire thing started from this post. I know for a fact that Charlie Kirk has still not been buried. And what's really interesting, then comes Erika Kirk in her tours that she's doing one after another and continuously rubbing people the wrong way. So Erika Kirk is head-on asked about his burial, and the way she answers is quite curious. So let's listen to it.
From the perspective of a grieving widow, a mom, and a battle-tested American. Good to see you again today. Talk to me about...
By the way, battle-tested? I keep hearing something about her and the army. It's not helping her case when everybody thinks she's a Mossad agent.
This part of the conspiracies that are out there, this disturbing part that people are trying to guess where Charlie is.
Can I have one thing? Can I have one thing? Can my children have one thing? Everything was public. We will be building the most beautiful memorial for my husband at Turning Point USA, and it will be for the world to see, and it will be spectacular, and it will have basically museum style for our Charlie, for my Charlie. But can I have one thing? Can my babies have one thing where we hold it sacred, where my husband is laid to rest, where I don't have to be worried about some secular revolutionary coming and destroying my husband's grave while my daughter is sitting there praying?
Okay. So the way I see that is she doesn't deny that he hasn't been buried yet. Now, the rationale is understandable, right? Like, it's a pretty good answer. Like, she doesn't want his grave to be destroyed, which I would imagine is a federal crime, right? Yes. I just had to check because I became curious. Yes, destroying a grave indeed is a federal crime. So, but I get it. It's a good answer. However, the over dramatic way of answering, like, she could just answer that question by like, yeah, actually he hasn't been buried because this is what we're trying to do. She says kind of nothing really. Like, she doesn't say yes or no. She just goes straight into the drama of like, can I have one thing? And she's consistently over dramatic about everything, where it's just like her looks, her, she'll just stare and then she'll just do this. Hold on, I can't even do it. Like this eye. Anyway, she's so unlikable. Nobody's buying it. Nobody's buying her persona. She's grifting and she's selling a book, and it's just very distasteful, in my opinion. We'll just go into her if we have time, or she'll just warrant her own episode. But I should stop saying those things, because now, by the time I'm recording the next, the entire world has gone crazy and new things are happening, like the Sydney shooting today, that like minute after minute the story is changing in a way. Like, you first see like Sydney mass shooting, and then 2,000 Jews under gunfire, and then Sydney massacre, and you're like, I think tomorrow I'll wake up and it's going to be 2 million Jews died in the Sydney Holocaust. Okay, so if Charlie Kirk hasn't been buried yet, what could be potentially happening there, and why? Okay, one, obviously they could be holding off until they build this insane memorial, which I don't know why it hasn't been built. It's been 2 months. I don't know, like, the contractors here pop up houses in 3 months. Granted, it's shit to live in. You should never buy it, but they do. So people with a lot of money, they just cashed in, what's 140 million, that just not even counting the book, which is insane. So why hasn't that happened? But maybe he's never going to be buried. Actually, maybe he's never going to be buried. What could be a third way? A third way, I tell you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Alcor is the third way. Okay, so what the hell is Alcor? Let's look into it. Beyond burial and cremation, Alcor offers cryonics as the third way to preserve patients at ultra low temperatures immediately after legal death. This is very interesting to me. Why the suspicion and and the hypothesis that got built up in my head? Again, I actually debate myself. There are some things that I think is unlikely. I'll tell you why, but it's very interesting. Alcor Life Extension Foundation is the nonprofit leader in cryonics since 1972. So this has been in business since 1972. And when I looked into the details, so Fred and Linda Chamberlain Rockwell, Fred Rockwell Chamberlain and Linda Chamberlain, they started this. They met in 1970. They started the cryonics thing in 1972. And in 1976, just 4 years later, they preserved Fred's father. So Fred's father was cryopreserved in the summer of 1976. It's interesting. Was this a much earlier scientific endeavor? And by 76, they already were fairly successful in that method of preservation? Or is this just truly one of the first ones and it's just kind of like gambling, like it will maybe work out, maybe not? But again, they're not necessarily saying that this is 100% by any means. It's just they are preserving people, certain people perhaps, so that they might later have the tech to bring them back. Okay, this reminds me of Westworld a lot. If you have seen that show, there's not many shows I've seen in my life. I'm not a consumer of entertainment, but I have seen Westworld, the first episode. I attempted to watch the next episode, the next season. I'm sorry, first season. I attempted to watch the next season. It was horseshit. I didn't like it. Some people liked it, but I could not waste my time like that, so I stopped. But the first season was beautifully done, and it's just, I hope I'm not ruining it for anybody, but there's that entire thing of people just really not letting it go with death and trying to bring it back, preserving consciousness and so on and so forth. So this becomes really interesting. Their website, you can go and jump around and read a whole lot. It's very interesting, actually. So discover how cryonics works, the principles behind it, and what the blah, 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 blah. Okay, so making the case for cryonics. While cryonics may seem like science fiction, you can say that, it's built on well-established scientific principles and an evolving understanding of life, consciousness, and medical possibility. This reminds me of so many of these WEF people, like Yuval Harari, for example, who just plays God sometimes, saying how we're going to make better humans.
For 4 billion years, nothing fundamental changed. All of life was subject to the laws of natural selection and to the laws of organic biochemistry. But this is now about to change. Science is replacing evolution by natural selection with evolution by intelligent design. Not the intelligent design of some god above the clouds, but our intelligent design and the intelligent design of our clouds.
To truly understand cryonics means looking beyond the headlines and examining the scientific evidence, philosophical foundations, and rational thinking that make this field both credible and compelling for a growing community of forward-thinking individuals. I'm not so sure about the rational thinking. I think it's just more packaged in narcissistic inability to imagine that they can die one day. Oh man, I wonder if I can find Bill Gates' answer. One time he was sitting down with, I'm not going to be able to find that. There's no way. I would just go on hours and hours of goose chase. But Bill Gates and Elon Musk are somewhere in either China or Japan. It was an Asian journalist that was asking the question, and I knew they were in Asia. And they're both sitting across from one another and in some kind of a lobby. So it wasn't like they were not in front of an audience. They both get asked the exact same question. They say, so when you're dead and gone, how do you hope what you've built is going to, move forward? I'm paraphrasing, don't quote me on that, but I distinctly remember the two different answers. Elon Musk gave a normal human answer, kind of like, well, I hope either my kids or this, I don't remember what he said, but kind of very human answer. I hope somebody will carry on and, will make sure that Mars is colonized. And Bill Gates starts answering by, well, I don't think I'm going to be dead and gone. And I think blah, blah, blah. And he answers the question. But it was very telling because it didn't seem like he was kidding or being funny. It almost seems like he very much thinks that he won't be dead and gone in 100 years. So, and I remember just immediately thinking what are they working on? Is it just delusional? And all of these elites, they actually behave in a way as if they're not going to die. Like they talk in a way as if they're never going to die. I think there will be a rude awakening. Technically, there will be no awakening because they'll be dead and gone and they're not going to know what happened most likely. Or maybe I just really don't think this thing will succeed. However, them reviving themselves fully, I don't think will succeed with the same personality, same consciousness, same everything where they have memories and all that. But I do believe they can create a new human from scratch, completely artificially, because cloning became successful. Cloning started pretty much 1952. They already had breakthroughs. 50s, they had breakthroughs. Then 1996, they cloned Dolly the sheep. And I remember this one because I was so consumed by this whole cloning thing for some reason. I don't remember why exactly, but I even like was just doodling down things, like, you know, when you're just bored in class. And then in college, I think one of the very first papers I wrote, it was about cloning. And I remember my teacher specifically told me I should go into journalism because I'm a great writer, and I just laughed because my English was still, you know, I thought my English was still so bad. But anyway, Dolly the ship happened in 1996, and this is fully successful. After that, I think Barbra Streisand cloned her dog, and so on and so forth. And then we just never hear about cloning again somehow. Do I think it went away? Do I think they just figured out how to clone successfully, like an embryo, and then it just went away? No, of course I don't think that. I wonder what are some of the ways that they are cloning things, people, organs. There's a really great movie. I can't believe I'm referencing movies in this episode. I am like if you guys say anything that references a movie, the likelihood of me understanding is zero, yet I am bringing up movies in this. There's a movie called The Island, and it's a really good movie, actually. It's about cloning, and it's such a... I hope I didn't just ruin that by saying that. But either way, it's an old movie, so you haven't seen by now. But it's a really great movie. I bet they're doing something like that with cloning. Usually these stories, these movies, this is just part of a psyop, especially when great Hollywood actors are in it. Recently, they also start showing the womb, which I think a couple of years ago, I saw that they had succeeded with creating what's called like the womb, which had 50,000, I think, 50,000 humans they could manufacture at once.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With Ectolife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. Ectolife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline, including Japan, Bulgaria, South Korea, and many others.
It's straight out of the Matrix. They show these artificial womb and how they of course frame it from a very moral perspective. So premature babies can grow in this artificial womb instead of the mother's womb, or so on and so forth. And it's really interesting and weird, and it makes me think about all the political push from the Democratic side that was pushing towards abortion is okay even at 9 months. So now the same type of people usually will turn around and pretend like they care about human life. So just they're packaging this news as if it's going to help humans, but they just despise humans and natural birth with passion. So needless to say, none of these things I take at face value because of their behavior and what we've seen over and over again when they present something to us in a moral way to help gain our acceptance, and then they turn around and just like just basically it just backfires like crazy. But what I'm trying to say is cloning has fully succeeded long time ago, and then we all of a sudden do not hear anything about it. Do we think they don't clone organs or even humans? I bet there are some clones among us. Because sometimes people just act in ways you just cannot understand. But of course, I also just wish it was transparent and we knew what that, like, I'm actually curious. Like, if all of that was transparent, I probably would be less judgy about it, because I am curious. Like, what does that mean to clone? Is this identical to the person? Or is this the clone part is just the clumps of cells, but then you grow a completely different human in it, right? Like, most likely this clone is a different person, different consciousness, different value system, different whatever, if any value system. So I'm just curious about this whole thing. But I can kind of see how that scientific world between cloning, the womb, and all core resurrection start meeting each other. I can definitely see a world where that happens. So what is death? Okay, this is quite interesting. Our understanding of death continues to evolve. The definitions of death change over time as medical understanding and technology improve. Death used to be when a person's heart stopped. Then, when their heart couldn't be restarted and is now being extended further. Okay, makes sense? Death is a process, not an on-off switch. When someone is dying, the transition from alive to dead is not instantaneous. It takes time to die. Doctors can use this time to try and save the person and are often successful. True. Cryonics becomes relevant when this is no longer possible or appropriate for the patient. So basically, if the doctor fails to succeed in saving the patient, then cryonics becomes possible or appropriate for that patient. So the most accurate definition of death, according to Allcore, death is only permanent when the structures encoding memory and personality necessary for consciousness have become so disrupted that it becomes theoretically impossible to recover the person. This is called information theoretic death. So that's definitely a new definition for sure. If you basically die, they're trying to maybe download or upload the consciousness, like as if we are a code. Hey, I could be, right? I sometimes feel like we're a code. Sometimes I just feel like we're just repurposed codes. Sometimes I even feel like we have remnants of that repurposing, right? Like we just have a little bit of a memory from the past, whatever characters we were. But of course, I'm half kidding. It's one idea because I do think we are biological beings, not a code. But it is very interesting. I think our DNA does hold memory and does hold, even has connection to some ancient pasts that we might experience and not understand how is it happening. But yeah, I do think DNA is extremely important, and that's why one day we'll talk about DNA extensively, because in the West it's been encouraged to disrupt that, to disrupt the DNA, to not fly with your own flock. But I think there's a lot of wisdom in flying with your own flock. And I'm saying this when I completely rejected that for a long, long time. I didn't fully appreciate or understand Armenians kind of keeping their DNA unmixed or intact. And I am starting to change my opinion on that. I do think a lot gets lost when you interrupt that memory, that information chain. But that's a whole different subject. So let's see. Cryonics is currently the best known method for pausing the dying process in a way that allows for potentially restoring good health with medical technology in the future. Cryonics is an ambulance for the future. So the hope is that obviously when the person dies, they can preserve them in a way where at some point the technology will allow them to be brought back. Now, this is interesting. What I'm wondering is, if this has been going on since 1972, possibly earlier, given how fast they, froze the first person, are we already there? Is this already the future? Right? Human embryos are routinely cryopreserved for years at ultra low temperatures. Okay, so embryos. So that's true. Through IVF and fertility treatments, these embryos later develop into healthy humans. Do we have good data if they are healthy humans? I actually have never looked into this, to be honest. Are they healthy humans? It's only the last maybe decade and a half that I started hearing about preserving embryos. So I'm curious how much data we have about that. Similarly, there are documented cases of individuals successfully revived after hours without vital signs due to extreme cold exposure. These biological precedents found throughout the animal kingdom indicate that life processes can be paused and resumed when biology is properly preserved. It's very interesting because the amount of movies we've seen with this kind of theme, and then the amount of movies we've seen where we thought something is sci-fi and then it started happening, I don't take these things lightly. Verification, this is a real business, by the way, again. Chiroprotectant solutions allow tissue to be cooled to extremely low temperatures without ice formation. This cooling process is called vertification, and it enables the preservation of the human body's vital structures with a particular focus on the brain. Very, very interesting. As it stands right now, they're saying maybe the future isn't here yet, according to the website. But this could be kind of like AI. When we have AI and they use it, but you don't know anything about it, then they pretend like it's brand new, and then it's just like, takes everything by storm, and it's gonna be just, it's going to only be exponential from there on. Trump just signed some kind of just removing any guardrails around AI. We've been very distracted with all the Kirk and Candace and all this drama going on, which it's not as much of a distraction. It's an important thing because all they're trying to do is just have you submit. You can tell that they just want to beat you until you start questioning your own sanity and submit. So I commend Candace for, of course, constantly asking the questions and not allowing that to take place, and many people who are starting to see right through this. But all in all, it is obviously, I was talking to a friend and he said how it's highly entertaining, which makes him suspicious. And I agree, because it makes me suspicious very much as well, because then you're thinking, what's going on underneath all that? What is being planned? A couple of things that I'm seeing being planned are, of course, heavy push towards passing anti-Semitic laws, which, for those of you who've seen my Bolshevik Revolution episode, which is, I think, episode 14, I want to say, the first thing the Bolsheviks did when they came to power is they passed anti-Semitic laws, down to if you even made fun, like if you joked about a Jew in a way they don't like, you were dead, right? It was brutal, and millions of people perished. And for those who are like, what are you talking about? And this is news to you. Bolshevik Revolution was a Jewish revolution. It was a hostile takeover of the Russian Empire and to bring down the monarchy and, take over Russia. So something that was very well documented, but now there's an entire Wikipedia page that says Jewish Bolshevism is a form of anti-Semitism and blah, 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 I think this is the first time I mentioned Jews in this particular episode. I'm going to play something really funny a friend shared with me because I just mentioned it in a random episode that's not about Jews. Although it's about Charlie Kirk and I think Jews killed him, but by saying Jews, the Zionists.
Oh, hi there. My name's Aaron Hill, and I'm the guy that researches how many Jews there are in things. Some people's hobbies are video games, other people's hobbies are sports, and my hobby is how many Jews there are in things. Some people on the internet call me names or say I'm an anti-Semite because I get some things wrong or am purposely misleading, but I'm not an anti-Semite. I just like to know how many Jews there are in things.
It's pretty hilarious. I just want to know how many Jews there are in things. But he looks like a Jew actually himself, so that's even more hilarious. He probably is. All right, so let's for a second, this is the part that we put a tinfoil hat, and let's for a second speculate, okay? So Milo comes and says, I know for a fact Charlie Kirk hasn't been buried. Then the wife comes out and just very dramatically says, can I have one thing? And then proceeds on saying how sounds like they haven't buried him because maybe they're preparing building some kind of a memorial in a more safe place. Okay, fair. Now, what gave me all the thoughts, right? Just what brought few things together is, one, if you or any of you remember, there was a jet, N88KG. This jet was an interesting one because it took off at 1:20 p.m., okay, from Provo and went to Arizona. And when it went from Provo to Arizona at 1:20 p.m., it went off grid. The correspondent was turned off. The owner of this jet came out and said that they did whatever is normal and whatever they were told. Paraphrasing a bit. Then I started hearing conflicting ideas about that. Some people in the field were saying, no, it is absolutely not normal or not okay to just turn off your radar, which makes sense. If you're in the air, like, couldn't that be catastrophic? You should be seen. Other planes and other things like flying objects need to be able to know you're up there in the air. So feels a little off to try and say that it's normal or it's okay to turn off the radar to me, but I'm not in the field, so maybe it is. The owner of the jet is someone named Derek Maxfield, who owns a business called Komodo or something like that. When I looked into Komodo, which is in one of my prior episodes, it's definitely a shell company. It's not a company that operates. It's just a one-pager about nothingness. And the guy is wealthy enough through this nothing business to have a jet, and he's a wealthy donor of Chabad Lubavitch. Now, anyone that has watched me, you might know what Chabad Lubavitch is. If you haven't, I think I want to say from episode 9 to possibly 11, 12, it's all about the Jewish Kabbalah and how it's schismed and this and that. And I think Chabad Lubavitch of today, which is a huge, huge sector of Judaism, is directly linked to Sabbatians, the Lurianic Kabbalah, who are very perverted and backwards and inversed in a way. So I think they really have drowned the other type of so-called halachic Jewish voices in many ways, because they are extremely prominent and they're often presented as if they're just a fringe Jewish group, but they're also the ones you see around all the big leaders of the world, the PMs, the presidents, and they're the ones who constantly are surrounding and, basically forcing people to kiss the damn wall. So these are your Chabadniks, Chabad Lubavitch people. And this is a wealthy donor to Chabad Lubavitch, has a jet, has a shell company, very suspicious, and flies from Provo to Arizona at 1:20 p.m. FBI comes out and says nothing to see here immediately. I just kept trying to figure out, okay, I don't believe personally that they had nothing to do with this whole thing. But then if they did, let's say, have something to do with it, then what exactly? So I was constantly trying to figure that out in my head. And the first, of course, obvious thought was, is it possible that it basically transferred the shooter into a safe place? But I personally, from everything I've seen, I do not believe there was a human shooter. I do think they executed Charlie Kirk the way they executed the Iranian nuke scientist recently, and they've been doing this since the 90s. Mossad uses precision mounted remote operated weapons instead of having, a human error to take place. And in Charlie Kirk's case, I think it was from a very close range. I think it was a much smaller, like a handgun type of ammo from a very close range, directly below him. So it could have been around his table, around the mic, one of the cameras in front of him, basically something that's disguised as something else, because again, this part is not cookie at all. You can go research this on your own. You can see that since the 90s, Mossad has been using remote operated weapons, and it's just only gotten better and better. I think the reason why there were drones being detected is because they probably just wanted to use their own localized network, right? Instead of connecting to Wi-Fi from the, let's say Verizon or whatever that could trace back to you, you create your own network that you can operate from so that you control and own the data. And I think that's I don't know, that's what I would have done. If I'm trying to take somebody out, I would try to be as discreet as possible, because clearly they also wanted it to be publicized from the PSYOP perspective, just to kind of see how many people are buying their stories, how many people are doing what. It's very much like COVID. It almost was a test to see what type of control they have over the public. So now it just continues to, they're just continuing to see, again, what kind of a hold they have and where the troublemakers are. I think there's definitely a list probably being made. And so again, I think the shooting happened from close range, from below. I think those 4 lard speakers, lard looking, I should say, speakers that stayed on the scene even after everyone had like collected everything and gone for the day. I don't know why those large speakers remained on the scene. So clearly that didn't belong to TPUSA. Did it belong to the school? Did it belong to who exactly? I don't know. And the school has a CIA department, so that's already shady. I think the large speakers were used to redirect sound, like so that it sounds like it's coming from afar and from a specific place. And I personally don't believe that a shot was fired from the roof because we're told it hit his C2. C2 is right here and his wound is right here. For it to hit C2, the position of the gun would have to come from a much like lower than Charlie. It would have to be lower than Charlie and hit C2. And then the whole ricocheting thing happens and all that. And it makes sense as to why also there was no exit wound, because 30-06 would blow his head off. So many reasons to believe that basically that's what took place, in my opinion. So why am I saying that? So because I don't believe there was a shooter necessarily to be protected to get on that plane, then I'm wondering, could it be that Charlie's body went on that plane? Because Alcor, this company, surprise, surprise, they're in Arizona also, Scottsdale. So, interesting. There's a lot going on in Arizona and Utah apparently, huh? You know, it's just an idea. Maybe not. Maybe it's unlikely, because there was also, if you remember, this whole thing where they came to take Charlie home, but obviously we don't know who's in that casket or if anyone is in that casket. All these people, parents and Erika, they're all there, which makes it very unlikely. Again, a lot of people are very suspicious of Erika, but I haven't dug into Charlie's parents, other than the fact that obviously people find the whole thing very suspicious. But we don't know who saw him actually already dead versus he's already in a casket and we're taking him home. So there's so much, I don't know, to be able to assume any of these. I would have to first know those details, which we will never know, before I could assume that maybe he was immediately flown to Arizona to be preserved. Another thing, of course, why would they want to preserve him if they have any hope his memory and consciousness and everything would preserve? Why would they want to bring him back after betraying him? But at the same time, I think memory would never preserve. I actually think even if they succeed in bringing the human back with their consciousness, which again, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it will just eventually have to be a new person, just relearning and creating new memories. Because, we've seen people who go in a coma and come back with loss of memory, So if you can just go out for a little while and come back with loss of memory, not even go out, just be on life support and come back with loss of memory, needless to say, it's going to be very interesting. We'll see what happens in the future. Is this like going to just be some crazy stuff that they're just like, Charlie Kirk resurrects his new Jesus Christ, some crazy thing? Or are they going to maybe clone him or resurrect him through, whether it's cloning, whether it's the womb, whether it's, again, this new method? I feel like they're gonna do something with this. That's why I wanted to make the cookie episode. It is a cookie episode. But I also just wanted to use the conspiracy portion of it. The portion that I'm completely unsure about, then it's just a random thought in my head that I'm just entertaining while also have many reasons to debunk it, right? Again, because of all these people are carrying his casket to the plane. So is he there, or somehow everybody is in on it, right? Like it would just, everybody would need to be in on it, everybody, if he's not in that casket and if he was flown on that jet to Scottsdale. Yeah, just saying. But it's not completely out of the realm of possibilities for everybody to be in on it. I just don't know about the parents part because I haven't dug into them. It's just their mourning style and their calmness right at that moment is a little bit weird. I've lost people in my life, and I am a very rational person. I'm not an emotional person. I'm not a crying person. So, but I'm also just one person, right? So not everybody takes things my way. So it's not like if I am this way, then everybody else is. It's just I've grieved and, had to go through that and observing my own emotions, my own ways, but also watching others and how they grieve. Nothing about this thing feels authentic from any angle. But I do think Charlie Kirk was killed. I know that so many people, because of the elaborateness of this and the craziness of it, people I think that he didn't die. I see a million reasons why he would be killed, because again, he was becoming a problem. Why would they allow him to live? It just makes no sense. And then there's a lot of interesting things about the security team, what happened there. So apparently Charlie was going with Schaefer Group. I, back then, like when he first got shot and I looked into it, I saw that they terminated their contract at 2022. And I was like, interesting. Then I went to Charlie's, YouTube page, and I saw that Dan Flood, who was with Schaefer Group, is behind him throughout the seasons. And I was like, maybe that was just rumors. Maybe it was false information. Maybe they didn't terminate the contract. Now, what it's turning out to be is that Dan Flood and Brian Harple, undercut Schaefer, betrayed him, backstabbed him, and offered Charlie their own business, their own contract for a far cheaper price. And Charlie went with that, which tells me that Charlie has a terrible judgment. Like, how do you not just immediately think, wait, if you can betray, if you have no loyalty to Schaefer, who's you've been working with for 7+ years or even more, I think, like, what makes you think they would be loyal to you? What makes you think that's a good security team? That to me just like that's, that just speaks of the fact that Charlie was just, had a terrible judgment. Sometimes I see poster like, are you trying to say Charlie, had a terrible judgment? Then, like, I think they're accusing Candace of that. And I'm like, yeah, he looks like he did have a pretty terrible judgment, actually. So anyway, did I have anything else about this whole... Guys, here I am editing the video and I cannot believe I forgot this part, because I really wanted to talk about this video in this episode because it was so appropriate. Majority of you have probably seen this video, which was highly inappropriate. It was extremely strange. You're just trying to wonder and understand, how the hell did you find this appropriate to put his body on display and share with the world like this? Feels oddly disrespectful, but of course everything was new and fresh. I stayed clear of it. I didn't want to comment on it, but I think it truly rubbed everybody the wrong way, kind of like, what the heck, just feels disrespectful. Of course, a lot of conspiracies came out of it, and one thing that caught my attention was that burn mark. Do you see that? That's a little interesting to me on her hand. Obviously, this is whole full-blown conspiracy realm, but I find burn marks, tattoo burn marks, interesting. Seems to be like, I thought maybe it's that Omega, Greek Omega sign, like a fraternity of some sort, or what is it called? The girl version. I don't even know what it's called, but it has a little bit of a tail. So anyway, don't want to, it's not relevant because there's no way to know. It could be absolutely nothing, or or if some of the craziest conspiracies are true, then it could be like, she belongs to somebody. she's a trafficked child or something. I don't know. But anyway, why is this video interesting in this particular regards is because we're talking about preservation and conspiracies and this and that. Nothing seems like what it is. And in that realm, this video becomes extremely kind of iconic, important, sending a message of sorts, and also in their mind perhaps not even disrespectful. I don't know. Just saying. A lot of people have seen this video and probably have thought, what the heck? And I thought it's interesting that the camera pans from the heart in a way, the red tie, and then the heart, and then just pans down. It just feels very specific. I don't know, like it's sending a signal of sorts. And I know sometimes we might read too much into things, and a lot of people were commenting on her rings, and she recently said it's her children's initials, although it's interesting that in this photo, why is it then only one of the rings, the G, the Freemasonic ring? What happened to the, why not have the other child on the finger, and the other one is more of a family kind of crest type of thing. So either way, those are thoughts I can have, but those are things we can never know for sure unless we somehow one day end up knowing somehow. But it is always fun to kind of try to figure out what the hell, like, why would you possibly post this, right? So let me get back to that video I was just editing. Yeah, I think the takeaway is I don't believe necessarily that jet took him to Arizona, but I'm dying to know if that jet did take him to Arizona, if that makes any sense. It's like, it's probably not what happened, but I wonder who was on that jet. I wonder who was on that jet. I don't believe that jet didn't take someone to Arizona. According to the owner, the jet went from Provo to Arizona, then picked them up to go somewhere else, and the jet was supposedly empty while going from Provo to Arizona. That part, Chabad Lubavitch plane with the shell company, with the timing, that part I don't buy. The rest of it is all, of course, fun and speculation, and we'll see how this dystopian nightmare future unfolds. And I wonder how many fake people, cloned or resurrected or recreated people are among us. Probably many. I bet Mark what is his name? Zuckerberg? The Facebook guy. He doesn't look real to me. So I bet that guy is like a clone. He didn't gain his consciousness back. I'm only saying that because, like, when you see him in interviews, you're just like, man, he just doesn't act like a human. Does not act like a human. Lately, he's been acting a little bit more humanly. I feel like they're getting better at it. They're getting better. Anyway, I'll just leave you guys with that crazy thought, and hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for being here. I know I always say that, but I'm gonna keep saying that because I think it helps reminding people. Many people might watch the channel and not think to subscribe, but that actually, if you are enjoying the content, that does help me, and that will push the algorithm. And of course, engagement and putting a comment down is even more so, because that truly shows that people are engaging with the content and it is of interest. So then the algorithm can work a little bit better. I am testing the algorithm a lot. I recently discovered that the word "the Young Turks" is absolutely not allowed. I did a little exercise that's on my X. If you have X, go check it out. And if you don't follow me already, go follow me there as well, because sometimes I share a lot of crazy stuff that I don't share in my content here. I'm a lot more rowdy on X. Probably should be careful because the Bolshevik's gonna come. But anyway, I did a little interesting exercise where I showed people how the terminology the Young Turks is absolutely demonetizes, like the limits monetization of the video. And if you change it and take that out, it brings it back, like you're monetized again. Then you switch and say the Young Turks and it just demonetizes again. So I do think that's an interesting thing, and it will probably one day enter into one of my episodes, Armenia related, because I've noticed this for a while. Armenia genocide and the Young Turks related stuff gets lost in translation, and the algorithm just like the Macrons, the algorithm is like, whoop, nope, we're not promoting this. So there's something there. Anyway, again, go check out the merch, support in any way you can. Thank you all. And check out the description for links, and I'll see you next time.